Hello everyone, this is Mini Ninja speaking. Today's episode is the big one. This is going to be the Beast Deities Fenrir review along with the Red Bolt Studio Accessory Pack. And as you can pretty much tell right away from the packaging and everything, this is basically the legally distinct Super Saiyan Broly Legendary Super Saiyan form. Of course, this one is going to be the B10 one, which is the default original appearance as he first showed up in the movies. And as we look at the packaging, well, you can just tell the sheer scale of this thing is well above anything that Beast Deities had made up to this point. Opening the main box, we happen to have, of course, the main body of the figure itself, as well as an generic animal head, although it has a little paint this time around. And in the clamshell, 2 effect pieces, 2 energy key blasts. And for the accessories of the main figure, the hands, once again, are appearing on this little kind of accessory rack, much like they did with the Jade Studio. You got your crossed arm bits in their own bag. A little cape, which, okay, it's a nice little inclusion, but it's a little weird still. And you have a little instructions of how to switch the arms for the crossed arm one, which they're basically telling you, right, oh, you need to submerge this thing into some heat in order to get there, but that's not the part you're going to need to worry about. I'll elaborate later. Getting this thing out of the clamshell, it is huge. By every standard. Actually kind of hard to record because of how much of the recording space it takes up. Getting the ruler out, you can see this thing stands at just a little shy under 10 inches, roughly 10 depending on what angle you're looking at, and in terms of its articulation, well, the animal head is kind of a defunct, that one doesn't have proper articulation, you can't really look at it, but in terms of its arm rotation, you can see full on the shoulder, biceps, they're a bit stuck at this point, so I would actually strongly suggest you dip this thing in hot water for a little while to loosen it up. That actually does help a lot. In terms of biceps, they're a little stiff, but they're fairly functional. Elbows will only get about 90-degree angles. That's as far as it goes on this one. But the elbows and the wrist tags, which are massive by the way, work just fine. Your ab crunch, unfortunately, even after you heat it up a bit, it is going to be a bit limited. It is there, but it's not much. Waist swivel? Stiff, but it works. I should mention the upper body is using the same kind of soft plastic as they do for the legendary Super Saiyan for Goku for the official line, so it is a soft plastic, while everything else tends to be much harder, not counting the cape, of course, which you can also see is made out of a soft plastic. Hips-wise, they're pretty much an enlarged version of a 3.0 sculpt, although what I will say on the knees is that you don't exactly get the most range out of them. It's basically just a 90-degree angle, just because of the sheer scale of everything in its fabric. But they're very stiff joints, hold up very well. Same with the ankle joints. Have a little cover on them and everything. Little toe joints on there as well. So, in terms of the spread and everything, the main body, a little stiff on there, but frankly holds up very well. Surprisingly well, in fact. It's a very sturdy toy. Which is nice to have at this scale, because otherwise you will have issues. Moving more into the accessories, a little greater detail, you can see the crossed arm parts are actually separate, so you can have a much easier time pulling them off the shoulders in order to make the swap. It has a replacement neck joint at the request of everyone when they were originally sending this out, because the original neck was much too short. And, well, let's just say we're going to have more to talk about the neck joint in a minute, because that is a whole issue on its own. Cape on here actually has wiring in it, so it's a weird addition, but it's nice to have. I'm not quite sure what's going on with the gap on there. Maybe that's to help it with the spread later on for certain appearances. The hand rack here is an improvement over what they did with the Jade Rabbit figure I reviewed last time, because while they hold everything in place, the bolts, the pegs themselves are not oversized or not too snug, so it will merely hold them. It will not stretch the peg, which is actually a very nice improvement. That means the hands swap in and out off the body without too much hassle. The hands are also made out of a soft plastic, I should say, so they are a bit snug fitting between when you're trying to switch them in and out, so it requires a little more effort. Or you can dip them in hot water, and that will make the hands much more malleable and much easier to change. So just so you know, there are options, and while I might have slight difficulty getting them off in here because I'm doing it fresh out of the packaging where everything is nice and cold, kind of speaking, even then it's not too much of a problem. Once again, main body of the figure, a little stiff, but we're having no issues. Putting things back on there, you can see they snap on there and you can hold all your hands on the accessory rack, just for proof of concept. Alright, moving onward, we have the various heads, because of course you have to have the character heads in their own separate boxes. Keyword, this is actually the default one that comes with the main figure, which is a bit of a squat little haircut. Frankly speaking, it is a decent job. It's the same kind of a greenish tint that you expect on a standard Broly figure, as well as a few different faceplates to go on with it. Kind of a more neutral one, a small smirk, yelling, and a grimacing face. Or, not grimacing, a smiling face. All in all, the qualities are quite nice. The decals on them are well applied. Very clean paint application, which is sometimes hit or miss on some of the other ones. And you'll notice the little holes on the ears. That's because they actually include, separate on this figure, a small little hoop earrings, which you can manually attach on them. So there is a little assembly there, but they have a little give on there. And they include a lot of spares, so in case you happen to bend some of them the wrong way, or they fall off and get lost somehow, you do have replacement bits to go with it, and quite a bit. I believe in order to cover the main face, plus some of the ones for the accessory pack, not counting the extra color ones, which I'm not using too much, it has enough to cover pretty much all your needs off just one of the racks, and they provide 2 of them. I will just say be careful now because they are very small parts and quite finicky to attach. Accessory part time. This is from the second kit and a whole separate purchase, as I mentioned. These ones are basically 4 different colored sets that go with it, which includes a default green one, which is a more accurate sculpt. Once again, they're basically rated after the initial commentary how the first sculpt was much too small, at least for some people's opinion, and thus inaccurate. So we have there, just for proof of concept, the show left one is the one that comes with the main figure, right one is the revised sculpt, which they sell separately. Honestly, they're both pretty decent, although the one on the right is somewhat more accurate, so I can see why people were asking for that. And in fact, that's the one I ended up using on my figure here for the rest of the review. The rest of the kits are actually just this nice overall white one, which is on here. Not too bad, but kind of a weird inclusion. And the last 2, which I forgot about, are basically yellow and clear versions of the haircut, being the newer sculpt. But I didn't realize at first until I saw the little magnet there. They actually have LED lights in them. A little hard to turn on. You have to get it from the right angle, but they are present. They don't exactly light up the whole thing. The light doesn't spread the whole way, but it is a nice little addition. So it is a good thing to have. What I will say, though, is those ones tend to be of a little stiffer plastic compared to the ones that are more standard haircuts, so standard haircuts, frankly, are a little pointy as they are, and these ones are quite sharp, so just be careful how you're handling them. Here's an example of what it looks like when you have the face plates attached to one of them. This would be the clear yellow one, as you can see on there, and unfortunately, kind of the lighter feature does get lost between the face and the rest of the haircut. It doesn't stretch that far. It's just a nice little addition, and at least it's pleasant that they include the batteries on there. Now, this is the part of the toy you need to actually worry about. It's not the arm crossed pegs, it's the peg for the neck joint. Namely, the extended joint as well as this one are ever so slightly too large in order to comfortably be used in the various sockets for both the neck and the various heads. Meaning, they don't actually fit properly. You're going to manually need to sand down the ball pegs on there, and even if you do, because of the way the neck is designed, it moves back and forth quite easily. You will need to somehow keep that steady or apply a great amount of force in order to make the insertion for the hair as well as the new neck peg. Which, if you don't cover the hair with a towel or something, you're going to cut your hands, or injure your hands in some way or another. A lot of people apparently have. I've been checking a bunch of reviews and we all have the same complaint. And you have to be really careful on how you sand down the neck peg, by the way. Don't mess with the sockets themselves like I did, because otherwise you will make it too loose and it will not be able to hold. Which is why this review took so long, actually. I unfortunately botched the modification myself, so I had to do some repair work in order to make this work. All that dust and stuff you see on there is a bit of super glue as well as a baking soda mix, which is meant to basically recreate the bottom socket, because that's where I messed up. Meaning the joint is basically frozen, for the most part, at least it was when I was doing that recording, and it took a lot of work to actually make this happen, getting the head on here. No matter how you look at it, this figure will require some sort of modification just to make it work in terms of getting the head on there. One glaring flaw I find in this figure. Alright, finally got the toy assembled. This is one of the alternate head sculpts. Overall stands at about 10.5 inches tall, which for the record is huge, absolutely towering over both official and unofficial toys. absolutely out of scale with how tall Brawly should be. He shouldn't be towering that much over everyone, despite how they have him here in some of the first movies. And he's absolutely insane in terms of how this toy's been built otherwise, other than that head, that neck piece. All those stiff joints are kind of sturdy ones. They can hold up a lot better than I would have imagined. Once again, that was him holding up the legendary Super Saiyan Goku from earlier, the 3.0 figure. This is him with the accessory for the Waikoba toy, the unofficial Goku from the same company, and there's no supports needed. Those joints hold up amazingly well. As long as you get the initial balance on this toy fine, it stays where you want it to stay. Even with absurd weights that should have tipped over hours, this thing left overnight. Found it the same way I left it. I'll even go so far to add about for the butterfly joints I mentioned earlier, which were stuck. After heating them in hot water, they loosened up, and now they're almost as good as the crossed arm parts are without needing to attach those. Which, by the way, once you heat this up enough, those swap without too much trouble either, I find. I just didn't have the footage on that, I just realized. And with this, we close the curtain on the Beast Deities company. Last of the line of releases, incredibly ambitious project, credible build, quite frankly, marred by that one fatal flaw that always seems to creep into their toys in one way or another that keeps them from being absolutely perfect. And with the joke having run its course, they've absolutely rebranded as Mythos Anime, so I'll look out for their next release, which is Sun Wukong, aka Legendary Super Saiyan Goku or Battle Damage Goku, depending on the version you want. And of course, if you're watching this on March 8th, heads up, this thing is going to be going live for general orders at 1 PM PST, so act accordingly, act fast if you want it. And with that, that's all I need to say, so thanks for watching, catch you all another time.